let's get straight into it. On today's episode, we talk about when does a mistake become a lesson? What is the difference between a mistake and a choice? And the three questions one of the best coaches I've ever had in my life gave me to turn every mistake into a learning lesson, to get back on the field and into action. And today's episode is a gift from an incredible author and writer that I love. And he sent this email out that tickled me deeply, so I had to share it with you. So without further ado, let's get me out of the way because he articulated way better than I ever could, and it's gold. Let's get into the show. Hello, and welcome back. And I have a very important question for you. When does a mistake become a lesson? And before I get into this, I have to give full credit. So there's a gentleman that I follow on Instagram. He's also known as the Captain. His name is Kyle Creek. And his Instagram is SGRSTK. And I have a few of his books, and they are incredible takes. And if you've ever been in that situation where you realize like you've been saying something for like 10 years or teaching it or talking about it, and then magically someone comes along and just articulates it 10 times better than you ever could. Well, that's exactly what today's podcast is about, because I love Kyle. I love his emails that I get. I love his books. And he wrote this incredible email that just blew my mind and simplified things down in such a powerful perspective and is articulated way better than I could ever articulate it. And so without further ado, just giving Kyle Creek full credit, I'm going to read you this email because it is so powerful and so profound. And even when I was reading it the other day, it led to a massive, massive shift for me, and I had to share it with you. And so I titled it, When Does a Mistake Become a Lesson? And he starts with, I'm just going to come out and say it. The past year has effing sucked. But the more that I'm able to start making plans for the future, despite how hard some of the recent decisions have been, I'm able to look back and see that I've truly learned a lot. And I will definitely not be making some of the same mistakes again. I overextended myself financially, physically, and mentally over the past 12 to 18 months, and that has burdened me with so much stress that I truthfully can't remember the last day I had where it didn't feel like my brain was being battered by the incessant woodpecker of worry. That's the intro to the email, and let's get into the meat of this. So my question for you is, when does a mistake become a lesson? And he says, I would say hopefully as soon as possible. But the truth is, a mistake doesn't become a lesson until we decide it's time. Until we are ready, a mistake remains just that, a mistake. Too often we continue making the same mistakes over and over, even though we know we're making them, because it's more comfortable, more familiar, or just plain easier to do so. Other times, we might continue making the same mistake because we don't want to admit that we are wrong. We don't want to be embarrassed, or we don't want to start over and try again. And in doing so, we let our ego win. And when we lead a life of ego instead of awareness, we make decisions that are bad for us simply because we don't want to look bad in the eyes of others. Now, looking back, I can beat myself up over a number of mistakes that I've made in my life. And quite honestly, I have. And by the way, me too, which is why this email landed so much. But if I allow myself a bit of grace, I can see that the vast majority of them weren't mistakes. They just feel like mistakes now because life didn't turn out as I had planned or hoped. In reality, they were decisions made with genuine ambition and optimism. However, in a state of stress, it's easy to paint every decision of our past with the same resentful brush, which is why we call them mistakes instead of what they really were. Choices. That brings up my next question. What is the difference between a mistake and a choice? Two things, your outlook and your knowledge. Number one, a mistake is what we call a decision when we are not happy with ourselves or the outcome. Number two, you can't judge your past decisions with your current level of experience and information. I know it's much easier said than done. Mistakes are only made when we know better and choose badly anyway. The point that I'm getting at here is that we beat ourselves up for past decisions, considering them mistakes, when they actually are not or were not mistakes at all. They are or were good choices essential to our life experience. And with each new experience, good or bad, comes a lesson for a future situation. We have to resist the urge to label everything a mistake simply because it didn't end up the way that we desired. So on that note, I hope you continue making mistakes, because I don't believe the goal in life is to avoid mistakes altogether. I believe the goal in life is to limit the amount of time that it takes you to learn the lessons in between mistakes. The fewer times you have to repeat something in order to learn, the better. So by all means, keep making mistakes, but make sure you're making new mistakes. Learn the lesson, then leap forward. Lastly, remember, if you're not making mistakes, you're not living, you're merely existing. And he ends it with a quote from C.S. Lewis that I absolutely love. If you went back and fixed all the mistakes you've made, you'd erase yourself. And this email has come at such a powerful time for me, as I feel like the last couple of years in navigating some lack of better terms, hard times, has been a very self-critical, self-judgmental, self-loathing, almost ruminating worst case scenario situation. But in reflection with gratitude, the amount of love I have in my heart, the perspective I have, the focus I have on what truly matters, the values, where I spend my time, who I spend it with, are lessons that I couldn't have paid any amount of money to learn. And I've fallen into this trap for years, especially as an entrepreneur. But if I look back, every good decision I make now, every piece of knowledge and wisdom I have now, every good decision I've made is run through a litany of choices that I've made in the past that has changed my perspective. And I've been told numerous times by coaches, and I share this with my clients and when I coach people, and I'm like, base hits win baseball games, not home runs. And yet the best baseball players in the world are paid millions and millions of dollars to only hit the ball 30% of the time. And because of my life and my wounds and the stories and the narratives that I've made up, it's always like, oh, it's supposed to be perfect, or I'm supposed to nail it every time. No, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to stumble. I'm going to fall. I'm going to learn. But as long as I'm making new mistakes, I'm winning the game. And I'm shortening the gap between when I make those mistakes and how I make them, adding to my life experience, and truthfully celebrating the choices is one of the best ways to win the game. And I'll never forget a personal development coach of mine who helped me reframe this years ago. And it's a muscle that I get to work on consistently over and over. Is the reason you think they're mistakes is because you don't know what questions to ask. So in looking back in these moments where you might be upset or judging yourself or ruminating, or you lost money on a business deal, or your offer didn't launch, or your marketing's not working, just ask yourself 3 simple questions and get back on the field to play again. And the questions are this. Question number 1, what worked? Question number 2, what didn't work? And question number 3, what are you going to do differently next time? And the moment you answer question number 3, get back on the field so that you can be in the game. And so I wanted to share this one with you because it was so potent and poignant for me, and it landed at such a deep level. And I'm going to take us out with that one that Louis C.K. quote. I'm sorry, it wasn't C.S. Lewis. It was Louis C.K. Completely different person. C.S. Lewis, incredible author. Louis C.K., a comedian. But Louis C.K. says, if you went back and fixed all the mistakes you've made, you'd erase yourself. And I think that that's one of the most poignant, beautiful summaries of what life is about, and especially entrepreneurship. And I've had numerous people on this podcast, millionaires, billionaires, successful coaches in every industry, and they've all resonated the same tone. The reason I'm successful is because I've made more mistakes than everyone else and faster to learn. And I think that that's something to celebrate. Everyone, we pick up experience, we pick up knowledge, and we use it to apply to the next situation. And that's how we win the game. And so today's episode is going to be short, under 10 minutes, nice, sweet, and to the point. But this email tickled me so deeply. So please make sure you check out Kyle Creek on Instagram or grab one of his books, because this email called me so deeply that I had to share with you. And so no matter where you are in the world, remember, relationships will always beat algorithms, especially the one with yourself. know that you're special, know that you're important, know that you make a difference, and know that me and my team are in your corner and will connect with you and help you any way that we can. You know how to get a hold of me. Just slide into my DMs and let me know how this lesson landed for you. Let me know if it shifted your perspective. Let me know if it supported you in any way. But no matter where you are, God bless. Have a beautiful day. Know that you are loved. And I'll either see you in the next episode or you will hear me in your earballs. But either way, we're out.